Well, as they were talking about 15, actually it's now 20 billion
I wanted to
transactions.
correct that.
Yes, I'll correct it for you.
Why reduce ourselves?
20 billion transactions, that's almost what, 8,000 or more per second. That is the kind of digital transactions that are taking place on the UPI network, and it is now powering, what, half of the world's real-time payments at the moment, and increasing. People like Herschel, fintechs like Razorpay, they're moving hundreds of billions of dollars every year. And then you have global platforms like PayPal integrating with the UPI rails, redefining how money is moving across borders. And at the same time, Amitabh, not to forget, capital markets are on fire, record number of IPOs, surging retail participation. That's just changing the nature of the game. And now AI is also learning how we invest, how we save, how we spend. So all this really brings us to the question about who really owns the future of money? And Dilip, the first question is to you. I mean, is it the banks that were typically seen as the custodians of trust? Is it, people like Herschel, Razorpay, that are redefining the experience? Or is it the code that is writing it, or the platform that controls all of it?
See, and Herschel may not like this answer, so apologies. So I think
that's a giveaway, it's not him.
It's NPC, I think.
So I think the customer will continue to own the money, and the banks will continue to remain custodian of customers' money. However, what will change is the how part dramatically. And I'm saying it's not going to change just by incremental percentage. And I think in next 5 to 10 years' time, the way consumer is using his own money or using the credit money is dramatically going to change. So consumer and the bank continue to have the relationship, but that nature of that relationship will change.
All right, you're not writing off the fintech side. So Harshal, let me ask you, you've just announced this agentic partnership with OpenAI and of course NPCI, where AI is pretty much making the decision on how you're going to pay. How close are we to a world where, how UPI is as easy as second nature to us when it comes to payments, where we leave these decisions to AI? And if we do, I mean, who's really controlling the flow of money?
No, let me correct that. The decision is always going to be with the customer, right? Like when you want to pay, it has to be your decision that you want to pay. Everything else that we do, right, whether, as Dilip spoke about, like the platforms that we build, the consent layers that we build, the idea is how do we make it easier for the decision to translate? So earlier, when you had to really make a payment to somebody, you had to either go to a bank or withdraw cash, and then you had to do all of those things. Today, it is, I want to pay somebody money, I can open my UPI app and pay somebody money, right? And like enter a PIN, now NPC has announced biometrics, so I can show my face and complete the transaction. Agentic will make that one step ahead, that at the time I'm discovering what I want to spend on. So I'm chatting with the chat GPT and saying, hey, I think I want to make this today. And it says, you need these three ingredients to make this at home. And you say, can you buy this for me? And it figures that out.
Well, the money, of course, is owned by the consumer. My question was, who controls the flow of money?
It is all with the consumer. That's what I'm saying. So at the end of the day, it's like asking me that when I'm having cash in my pocket, is the money belongs to my jeans or my wallet or my leather company? Like, it belongs to me. It is my money. Yeah. Everyone here is to assist me in spending that money. So the platform, the bank, whatever interfaces you build are there to assist the customer to spend the money. With more and more regulations coming in, like, for example, the data protection law and all of those things will make it more and more, will put the customer more and more in control of his data, along with that money and the financial world that lives with it.
Well, I thought Herschel will add that India is the second country to launch the agentic payments in the world at the GFF. Yeah. However, it's a pilot, but we are the second country in the world to launch the agentic payments.
Yeah, and just 20 days after US piloted agentic payments, India piloted agentic payments right here in this room. Yeah. And we're the second country in the world to make that happen. I think it's one of the things that you don't talk about as much.
Yes, very much. And that was at the Global FinTech Festival. We heard those announcements. And congratulations to the NPCI team and you FinTechs for making that happen. But Forum, in this interconnected world, I mean, you're controlling the flow of money across borders. Who really controls the trust? I mean, the money in my jeans, in my wallet, in my pocket, it's all mine, sure. But who's the custodian of trust?
So, I mean, that's, from a PayPal perspective, as a 25-year-old platform that's built on connecting two completely untrusted entities around the world, there is a clear paradigm shift in terms of how trust moves, especially with agentic AI transforming how commerce takes place. And as PayPal's mission moves from just payments to enabling commerce and democratizing, connecting MSMEs with parts of the world that they've never, ever been able to do initially, especially from out of India and Southeast Asia. There is a fundamental difference in how trust moves across borders. We have strong governance framework in the partnership that we announced with NIPL. We require those, right? The traditional security mechanisms don't go away. However, we need to look at how the threats are evolving, the power that AI brings to the enablers of technology, the same power the attackers have as well. We see deep fakes, misinformation, disinformation, non-human identities, authentication authorizations becoming much, much more advanced, much, much more scaled, and at a speed that we haven't seen before. And that's why PayPal's partnering with OpenAI, with Google, with Perplexity in trying to come up with protocols. We may have heard of A2A as the overall agentic to agentic commerce protocol. And now they have on top of it AP2, which is Agent Payment Protocol, where security is built in. We want to make sure that authorization, accountability, auditability of all of those, the transparency that the customers need, like Arshil was saying, the power, the control, is still with the customer. However, when an agent performs that money-making task, the commerce task for you, it is done in a way that anybody at any point can come back and make sure that the intent, that the non-repudiation of any particular transaction can be tested.
That's a whole lot of risks that you're talking about, and I'm sure everyone in this panel and in the community is very, very wary of cybersecurity risks when we talk about digital payments. But what, to your mind, is the most underestimated one by the industry, by the stakeholders?
So I do think that people believe that one is the power of AI in its self-healing capabilities, in its ability to learn very quickly. They don't have to worry too much about the traditional security risks. And I feel that the governance, for example, I think yesterday, the AI governance framework that METI released, again insists on strong principles, strong risk-based mechanisms. If you again think of PayPal, like the primary way in which commerce had happened online, there was always a trade-off between security and convenience. When we started creation of what was called as FIDO initially, now there's passkeys, we've shown that security and convenience can coexist. Trying to come up with innovative ways in which you can have the convenience, the speed, and without compromising on security is a way one can show how you don't have to have that trade-off or the compromise on either the experience or the protections that a customer expects.
We've covered a fair bit of payments, and there's been a whole lot of innovation there that the world, it's there for the world to see. But Amitabh, talk about the retail markets, and we at CNBC here focus on that very closely. Spate of IPOs, a whole lot of retail investors coming to the market, new investors coming to the market. Is capital markets going to be the next frontier of financial innovation? And what does that mean for the future of players like you, traditional players?
Look, there is a significant shift and change already happening due to the surge of capital markets in the financial intermediation that it kind of happens from a conventional basis as to what's happening right now. If you were to pick a few thematics, there's already a shift from a bank-dominated system to what is market-based intermediation. For example, corporates are no longer dependent so much on bank loan as providing them the credit appetite, but are relying on the bond markets and more so from there. Similarly, if you look at mutual funds or an NBFC, they are channeling the household savings and putting it into new productive sectors that one is seeing. Democratization of investment. You've seen these low-cost apps, UPIs, all of that is enabling, and you're seeing a surge in the capital markets that you were talking about right now.
Well, Dilip, let me toss that to you because, there's a whole lot of conversation. A lot has been said and done about UPI, frankly. But, I want to ask you, while UPI has changed the nature of how we pay, how we borrow still feels very old and still feels like it has a lot of friction. There's talks of unified lending interface. It's touted to be a game changer. We haven't seen the results yet. But what, to your mind, is going to be the most transformative change that could be already in the works that will change how credit is distributed in India?
So when you look at, and of course, something like ULI kind of creates an interface to get a one-stop shop kind of a model to get all the information relating to make that decision to lend or not. But I believe that while the UPI is in the process of serving the purpose on the consumer spending its own money, right? I think the UPI is also getting kind of shaped to use it for the credit purpose. So whether it's a credit card, you attach your credit card on UPI, or you get the credit line, which has been approved by RBI. And I think fundamentally, while it's a very initial stage as I see, but I think fundamentally it will change the game, and simply because of the reason of it has the ability to become super fast in that sense. It has the ability to become a short, and it has the ability to become really connected. And when the consumer is real-time connected with you, the decision making on step up, right, becomes very, very easy. And actually, it's a very different game altogether, right? Because the ability to score the customer, ability to collect the money from the customer in the near zero cost is the kind of a new model what we are thinking is going to happen. It might take some more time basis some of the changes in the regulations and otherwise. But I think this credit revolution is going to come in, and we believe a fairly short, large volume credit for the large amount of population, and in a fairly contextual manner, because we have a lot of data on UPI, and I think that many financial institutes will get benefit to use that data to really expand the credit reach in India.
Well, Harshal, what about credit on UPI? Or rather, is there some other technology you're more excited about? And let me also ask you, credit has very much been the domain of banks, just like payments has been taken away by fintechs. You think, thanks to these new technologies, you can make a bigger dent there, of course, apart from partnering with the traditional players?
Yeah, no, definitely so. I think every transformation has this particular journey. So you start with transaction processing or payments, and it's not just India, everywhere else in the world. It starts with payments. Once your payments are digitized, then you can do credit much better, because now you have enough data to write credit on top of it. I think over the last 10 years, we have solved the payments problem quite well, and we are, to every extent, there's still a lot more to be done, but to most extent, consumer payments has been sorted, and where most consumers are spending on top of UPI, which generates enough data, enough insight that you can do credit on top of it. I think the opportunity we have explored an opportunity with credit on UPI, which has picked up really well. It has been almost a year, 2 years since it has really taken off, and it's taken off in a significant way. Today, credit card transactions on top of UPI is almost 25% of all transactions, and it's scaling really well. At least, I'm talking about Razorpay platform.
Yeah, I was just
on
going to
Razorpay platform, 25% of all transactions are credit on UPI,
Oh, wow.
UPI
Okay.
transactions, and scaling quite well, simply because customers are now feeling that, okay, if I can get access to the same rails that UPI has, but I can use credit instead of my bank debit, then it's significantly better for me, because I don't have to spend money out of my pocket. I think the next step is solving for scoring. I think that's this one area where AI is going to play a really important role. I think the hard part of distributing credit at scale has been underwriting. How do you do underwriting of individuals at scale at a very localized level, but at the same time doing it at a country level scale? I think with AI, we'll really be able to reach the threshold where every single individual can be underwritten using the data that he generates, using the transactional pattern that he follows, and being able to distribute credit at scale using that, and bring the cost of credit down significantly. I think that while a lot of that work has happened in the last few years, personal lending and personal credit has scaled a lot.
Yeah.
But I think credit at the point of transaction or embedded finance, as we've been talking about it for the last 5-7 years, I think AI is probably the missing step there, which can allow us to do real embedded finance, where I want to buy something on this website right now. Somebody comes and gives me credit for that particular purchase at that point of time. I think we'll see it happen far more with AI coming in.
Well, Dilip, just to close the loop on credit on UPI, since, Harshal is saying 25% of Razorpay's transactions, on credit for UPI are going through that. Why aren't you opening it up for other players outside of RuPay? I mean, when will you expand the ecosystem, bring in more players for meaningful scale?
See, look, that's not NPCI's call. That's a regulator's call. But let me
But you're very much involved in the decision making.
But let me put it very differently, right? Today, every organization has a right to use the innovations that are created by that particular organization, and it could include a variety of them. And similarly, the other institutions also has leverage from their innovations. So I think, Ritu, it's a little unfair to say that every organization should start sharing their IP with the other institutions. And I don't know how does it work in media companies, but anyway. But being said that, I just want to pick up one point from what Harshil said.
Yeah.
Right. I think and you spoke about the AI and what is the future it lies about, and I think it's going to be a little bit of a question mark in everybody's mind that how these platforms are going to behave like. Right. I'm just saying because. See, today, the consumer, people speak about in 5 years, UI is going to be, the apps are not going to be there, it's going to be the Gen Z likes to talk and nobody's going to use the apps. I'm saying these might be a little bit of extreme views, but I think the platforms are going to create a very, very important game. And I believe that somewhere, the India must play its game to the true potential so that while we have a great sovereign platforms for the payments which are predominantly driven by API. And I think there would be a need to create the platforms that are powered by AI, right? Yeah. So that we control the data, we control our destiny, and we are not fully only reliant on like social media on the Western world.
Well, Forum, let me quickly bring you in on this because, Dilip brought in sovereignty of AI. At one point we used to talk about currency wars. Now we're talking about AI sovereignty or algorithm wars. Are we going to see a future, you think, and for someone who's building these rails to interconnect the world, are we going to see a future where there'll be digital borders for the movement of money, and what will that mean for the future of global commerce?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we announced PayPal World a few months ago, and the partnership with UPI, with Tencent, with Mercado Pago. We just added a couple of more players in UAE and Qatar. We believe interoperability is key, right? To connect the countries, to connect various networks, to connect various currencies, you have to have a platform that can speak every single language, that can allow every single individual to participate in the commerce and the transformation through the AI that is happening. Having said that, there is obviously a need for appropriate protections, appropriate guardrails that allow for the sovereignty discussion, for protections in a way that is compliant, that is allowing the individual to have the trust in the ecosystem. So it cannot happen without trust as a core mechanism, and that's why being present in 200 markets, allowing us to collect the data. Again, Dilip mentioned, how do you use the data to introduce some step-up mechanisms? Sure. We do that with 350 data points to decide when do you want to authenticate somebody. So to have a compliance, I mean, I don't think these are mutually exclusive. You can be compliant, you can respect any sovereignty requirements that are needed while allowing individuals to be operating in an interoperable global network.
All right. Amitabh, very quickly, since we're talking about AI, and AI is making all kinds of investment decisions today, at some point, do you think AI will go from being an enabler, an advisor, to a competitor for players like you?
No, I think adopting and embracing technology is a given. It's a must. So I don't think it's a competitor. You're right about being an enabler, because what it does to us is allows us to automate our system, allows us to provide services which are superior in terms of our customer, their acceptance as well. So it's an enabler, it's not a competitor.
Yes.
See, I think the AI, today's AI, right, it's still very expensive, right? And again, we should be very careful when we say that AI is going to eat the world, right? And I think the question should be the what use cases, right? Because today, and very simple example, what you can do with API, you don't need an AI for that, right? So I'm just saying that the simpler transactions, the high volume, low value transactions will continue to be dominated by the API-based systems, but definitely the level 3, level 4 use cases, right, which are fairly complex to solve only by API, will come in with AI. But again, the cost is going to be biggest hindrance on really, at least for the country like India, to really take AI to the every Indian in that sense.
Sure. Yeah, just in 30 seconds, Dilip, is there one thing AI should never be allowed to do with our money? AI should never be allowed to do with our money. Is there one thing?
AI to do
Is there one thing that AI should never be allowed to do with our money?
with our money. So of course, as Harshil said, the final word should be the customers.
All right, Harshil, final word for you. If you had to define the future of money, the next decade of fintech, as a Bollywood movie title, what would it be?
Invisible.
Invisible. All right, on that note, gentlemen, thank you so much. Dilip, Amitabh, Forum, Harshil, it's been a pleasure speaking with all of you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.